record.
Yeah.
Okay, as always, if you don't want to be on camera, stop your camera and you'll still see us, but we won't see your lovely face. So I hope you all had a wonderful week. You're ready to go. Nobody's, I've got all these people up there. So, well, I've had a crazy week. My conference starts technically Thursday. So
Ooh.
I have one who called me late last night whose husband is dying, another one whose partner died, and it's like I'm afraid to answer the phone anymore. So if we make it next week, we'll be good. What all that is to remind you, there is no class next Friday. So we will pick up 2 weeks from today. Does anybody have any questions on that?
So I need to put that down as to not doing class that day. Okay.
Well, you guys could meet. I just won't be here.
So would you like me to launch that day and everybody just kind of hang out and work together and whatever? Would you guys like that? I'm happy to launch the class. Okay, let's see. Raise your little hand, wave, or raise your little virtual hand down in your reactions button. There's a reactions button. You can do a thumbs up or a heart or whatever. Okay, I've got a thumbs up. Jane nodded her head. Claudia's, I don't know. We've got to you know what? I'm going to launch it. And whoever comes. So Belinda, just let everybody know they're welcome to come and hang out. And if they don't hang out, that's okay too. I'll still launch it.
Okay. All right. So do we have any show and tell today? Jeanette does.
No show and tell. I'm sorry, I came in at the last minute. So what's going on?
No formal class next week because I'm at my lace convention.
Oh, okay.
But Yasmin said she would log on and open up the Zoom if you guys wanted to get together and chat and make projects and problem solve.
Yeah, and do show and tells and all that. Yeah. So there will be a class. It just won't be with any Belinda.
Okay.
And actually, any one of you could teach the class. So you could pick a project and do it. So you don't need me. So
well, we do need you, but yeah, let's make Pat and Valerie teach us something, or Claudia, or
you all could do lovely things. So Pat's got something to show and tell. So I'm highlighting her. Pat. Oh, look at that.
Pat, move it over more to your face. Yeah. Oh my
wow.
Beautiful.
Really?
That's goodness.
That's the twisted herringbone and last week's pendant.
Oh my goodness. That is
she put them both together and the two projects and made a gorgeous piece.
That is absolutely stunning.
I don't know which way to put it. This way, I guess.
Can't you just see that with wearing that with a nice evening gown or something?
Yep.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
I was thinking Oscar worthy.
It really looks expensive.
It does.
This is so hard to put it where it should be.
Okay. All right there. Right there. You got it. Wow.
I could see that on a black dress. Wouldn't that be just a killer?
Oh yeah.
Or even like I'm not a brown color person, but something brown, like a rich, just a really rich brown.
Or a burgundy.
A burgundy.
Yeah, I used gold and silver and then the topaz stones just because it would go with the most things. So it's just the size 11 seed beads. And then in the back, if I can do this. Nope, that way. In the back, it's the cones, but I made them cones rather than straight caps, and then did a clasp.
Beautiful work. Gorgeous.
You made the cones too?
Yep.
If gold and silver lame were in, boy.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
There you
go. Pat, in the center of in the pendant part, could you put that up again?
Yeah,
Um,
I started the spiral
There you go.
with the gold.
Okay, and then the loops you did with silver.
Yep, and then I did the 26 gauge with gold again.
Okay, okay. And gold
That's-
stone, gold crystals. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. That is just absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
Let me take, excuse me, let me take a screenshot so we can put it on,
I'll send you a picture, Belinda.
good, even better. Okay, good, because we want to put that up on our Facebook. That is exquisite. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that you did two projects together, the herringbone and the pendant. That's beautiful.
Well, I
That-
tried
that'll
to do
drive
the-
beginners away.
I tried to do the what's your other project? The Peruvian
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
And I was going to put that because I wanted to do it in gold and silver on the herringbone. But I could not get there. I only had 28 gauge and I got the silver on and I pulled it so tight that it got misshapen. Then I tried to put a little bit of gold on and I couldn't get anything between my wraps. So it's a misshapen sort of wrapped silver thing thrown in a box somewhere.
It's free form.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
I'm bad. I'm not a good asymmetrical person.
Well, you do lovely work, and that's a beautiful piece. But I think Carol's right. Try telling our beginners that that's an easy project,
Yeah.
and yet I think all of you
It
would
wasn't
agree
that hard.
it isn't that hard. But Pat took it and just made an exquisite piece of art out of it. So I think that I stand by the people that look at them and go, oh, I could never do that. That they, if they would just try it, I don't think they'll make it as lovely as Pat did, but it really isn't
Maybe,
hard.
okay, they won't make it as lovely the first time as Pat did.
No,
But
your
But
stuff-
Pat has a lot of experience. All you have to do is it's just practice. Okay.
Yes.
yeah, it's been over 10 years that I've been making jewelry. After 10 years, I ought to be able to do something.
Oh, so in another year, I'll get bright and good about this, huh?
Well, I've been doing it for 20, Pat, and I don't think I'm as good as you are. So there you go.
There's talent and then there's the rest of us who are
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Okay, any other show and tell? That's a hard act to follow, but anybody gutsy? Now
I
didn't-
want to see Janice's. She had a start last time and she had a beautiful stone she was going to connect to it.
I don't see Janice on here. Well, let me pull up. Miriam's trying to show hers, so let me get her first.
Marianne, that's pretty.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh, Marianne.
Ooh, I love that.
I just had that stone and I thought, oh, I trialed so many stones and looks and I thought I'd like it just to be sort of floral. And I love my polka dots. I'm wearing polka dots today, actually.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
Oh,
Really
thank
nice.
you.
Really, really nice.
I need more practice time.
I hear you on that one. So let's see, who am I missing that I'm not seeing? I've got you all on gallery. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So I'm going to highlight me and go over to another camera and we'll get started. Today is basically all kinds of different links. So I thought it had been a while since we even talked about doing the basics. So I'm going to take you through all kinds of them. Grab your various tools. At least you need your wire and you can use any gauge you want for this. You need your either bail making pliers or your round nose pliers and your flat nose pliers. And then if you have some mandrels, different sizes setting around, that'll be good. And I thought I was trying to figure out what is the best way to do this so that I don't have a PowerPoint to show you because I just ran out of time and couldn't make it. So I thought what I do is when I demonstrate the link, I'll do 2 or 3 of them, and then I'll give you a few minutes to make 2 or 3 or 5 your own self so that you're getting the technique, and then we'll go to another one. So this was the one I worked on last week, and I need to tighten things up. I just stopped at a point, but when I was making mine out of the 16 gauge wire, and then I decided, because it looked so heavy, I didn't want to add in here the extra beads. So I just went ahead and put the crystals out there to give it just a little bling. So I'm ready now to make the chain. And I pulled out of I was walking all over the house, pulling out jewelry. It's disgusting that I have it all over the house, and saying, what different links can we do? So on my original one, let me grab it. I have about 5 different links, and I'm prepared to show you any of those or all of those. And then I pulled out some others that I thought were kind of fun to look at. And if we don't get to them today, we'll get to them in the future. So this is sort of a variation of the links that are on my first one, and we'll show you how to do those. So some are a little more intricate than others. Here's another variation of links, which are kind of fun to do. So this was just, and this little link here, I will show you how to do it because I think it will satisfy a number of you. It's easy and it's free form enough that you don't have to worry about having it look too neat or be too specific about it. And it's kind of a fun one just to fill in with. This is kind of fun too. And we've done this. Whoops, let me get it on the camera. We've done this before. This is a herringbone wrap. Do I have one on here that's a big one? It's this variation here. But I did 2 in lighter gauge and put it together. And that's kind of a fun link to do. It just adds a different look to your piece. So if we get to that, we'll show you that. Here was just the regular link in the herringbone. I know we've done that one. So we'll talk about that. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about jump rings, because we really, especially if you haven't been with us that long, we haven't done jump rings. And this was just one I pulled out that I thought you might be interested in, because it's just made from jump rings, and it's just a little different look, but it's all jump rings in different sizes and different gauges. And it makes kind of an interesting chain. So let's start with jump rings. Jump rings, you start off making a coil. So I pre-made a coil here, just like we've been making coils all along. The trick with the jump ring, and if you're used to sawing, I know some of you work with metal a lot. So if you're used to sawing, then the easiest way to make a jump ring is to take this to your jeweler's bench and use your jeweler's saw and just saw right down, making a straight line. To me, it always seems like I'm never where my saw is when I'm making these. So I usually will just go ahead and make a coil, and then you want to cut them. And the trick is you want to flush cut, because you want them to come together nice and smooth. I've got my phone in a different direction, so I keep wanting to go where the camera was before. So you don't want a gap in here. And to make them nice and smooth, you have to flip your cutters when you cut with the flush side, and you have to do a little filing. Otherwise, you're going to have just a little burr there that will keep them from closing the way you want them. So just as a review, I've got a little burr there from the last time I cut it. So before I even start, I'm just going to go to the very edge and trim that off. with the flat side, and I put it on an angle so I didn't get a straight. So with the flat side against my cut. And then I'm going to flip my cutters over so that now the flat side is over here. So theoretically, if I do this right, I'm going to get two flat sides that'll touch. Now, once you've made your cut,
Belinda, question. Do they
yes,
still make cutters that cut flat side on both sides?
yes, they do. But the problem I have with mine, these are called double flush, is you can't get them in. Well, I can on this one. Usually my coils, I can't get them in far enough because they're so big.
Okay.
I bought these a million years ago, and I'm not a fan of them. So I really, to be honest, haven't looked. If you can find that these that are double flush and they're long and tapered so that they get into smaller places, that would be a good investment, because basically what we're doing here, let's see if I can do it. See, mine just don't really, I'm trying and they're just not cutting nice. They're distorting that. So to me, these are useless. There are few times that I use these. They sit here and grow rusty.
Every time I try to do, I work on that, but I kept thinking there's got to be a cutter that would just do that for us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Then what you want to do is file these. So take your needle nose file, your diamond file, or your emery board, and get it in there and file each end on each side. Not a lot, because if you file them too much, you're not going to be able to close it. And we're going to pretend that I filed mine. And then we're going to close this. And I think the reason I wanted to review the jump rings is we really haven't talked about opening and closing for a while. The worst thing you want to do is pull these open this way, because you'll never get them back in a circle. So when you're working with jump rings, the movement is you put a pair of pliers on each side and you twist it a little bit back and forth. So it's kind of like opening a door, and at the same time putting a little pressure over there so that your two ends are coming together. And if you do it right and everything's nice and smooth, you should hear a little click. Oh, I was talking and I don't know if you heard my click, but now it's secure, it's closed, and it's a circle. Now, what I do with my jump rings is I just set and make a ton of them and don't worry about them. So I've got different gauges and I put them in bags, and then I have them and they're ready to use. You could also hammer these for texture if you want. I have some huge ones that I've made, and they make a really good chain if you use multiple jump rings. So for instance, on this particular one, what I did here, let's get where you can see it, is I used one that I textured. And the way I textured that is took it outside in the backyard and put it on the concrete patio and hammered it. And I don't know if the camera is showing you close enough, but I get really nice texture to that. So that's textured. These are not. And what I did here was just link with one jump ring, two jump rings that I'd set together. And they make kind of a circular infinity type of look. Actually, I guess that's three that I've got in there. Down here, what I did was, and when I pulled this out this morning, I thought, oh, we could do this actually in class. I have the three that I put together, and then I put four littler ones, and then I hooked four medium ones, and then one back to the little ones on the end. And it makes kind of a nice, interesting link. So, and it looks like I need to go back and close some of these. If you want to avoid that, where it kind of opens up a little bit, put it on your bench block after you've got it all hammered and before you assemble it, and hammer it again with your rubber mallet. And that will help work harden it so that they don't come open when you're working with them and leaving them. And they do, because the wire has a spring to it. If I just leave this without work hardening and I'm with my rubber mallet, even though it's setting together really nicely right now, in a day or two, it will tend to open up a bit because it wants to spring back. So the trick with these is cut them flush, file them, put your patina on them or your texture on them, open them back and forth this way, not this way, and then close them up and hit them again with your rubber mallet, and then put them in your jewelry piece. So it's a moldable step, but it's worth taking those steps. When I first started making jewelry, I can't tell you, I had more problems than anything with my jump rings, because they wanted to come open or look ugly. And another way I use jump rings, and we've seen this before, is I will put, well, that's not the one, but I'll put 2 or 3 of them together and make a bail. So anybody have questions on the jump rings? Okay, another link that's kind of a cool link, and it's simple, but I know we talked about it a long time ago, but I pulled this out and said, oh, maybe we should talk about it again, is just your S link. So I'm using, for my demo purposes here, my just 20 gauge wire, but this one I think I made out of 18. And to be honest, I probably, unless I made it much smaller, I know I would go to 18. 20 in that size S will just pull apart. So if you are using, let's talk about your tools on this. If you're using your bail making pliers, which I will be using on mine for most of them, because I don't have to do any measuring, I don't have to do any thinking. But if you don't have these and you're going to use your round nose pliers, then what you have to do is mark your round nose pliers, because you'll never remember exactly what size you used. So if you want to make your S loop, let's say that big, take your Sharpie marker. If your Sharpie marker has ink in it. Well, mine isn't going to work. Guess that one's trash. Take it, make a mark, and that's what you're going to use. So what I like to do with the S loop sometimes is use 2 different sizes. So I might, when I'm using my bail making pliers, I'll use one side for one of the loops and a bigger size or smaller size for the other. So just to sort of give you a demo on this, and then let you make 1 or 2 if you haven't made them. You want to start with the flat end. So I've already trimmed mine, but I'll trim it again to show you. I don't want that little pokey thing out there. So just cut off the end so it's nice and flat. You could file it if you want. Then I'm gonna, let's make a medium one. Remember, when you want to make a circle and you want it to look like a circle, you start on, whether it's on your round nose pliers or your bail making pliers, you start where you can see the wire but not feel it. If you can feel it, you're going to get a little flat edge there. Now, there are times you want that little edge, but not with our S loop. So I can see it, but I can't feel it. I'm just going to go ahead and make a loop. I want to make sure they're together. So I've got my P loop. Then I'm going to put it back in my bail making pliers using, let's see, I just used the big one. So I want to use the small one going in the opposite direction. So I'm putting it right up against the edge. And I'm going to go back this way. And it made my figure 8 or my S. And then I'm going to come in here and trim it close. but make sure I don't trim the base. I'm gonna flatten that. I cut it a little long, but I'm gonna make sure it's there. And then I would take it to my jeweler's bench and my hammer, and I would hammer that. If I want textured look or I want to flatten it, a flat look, I use my metal hammer. If I just want to work harden it, I'd use my rubber mallet. And this is 20 gauge and it's too big for that gauge. And let me sort of give you an indication of where it is with 20. It's it's not, someplace it's right in there between 1/2 and 3/4. And it's too wimpy to be a link. So you might do something like that for a bail. So a bail that we haven't talked about before is you take this and then just twist it. And your piece can hang on this and that goes on the chain. And it's an interesting bail. Again, I think 20 gauge that big, I would not be happy with. You might be, but it seems too wimpy to me. I'd bump it up to 18. So do you want to make one of these, or we've talked about these before, but should I wait and let you make one or two, or shall we go on to a little more complex? I'm not hearing anything, so I'm guessing. Okay. Complex. Okay. So I have a whole selection here of what I think are interesting different links. So let's start with a fairly easy one. This particular link is based on coils you've already made. So I kind of like the look of that. It gives you a little different approach. I've got different sizes here. So on this one, what you're going to do is take your whatever mandrel you're using. And I'm working on all of these. I'm working off the spool. So I don't know if you can see that I've got that going on there, because I don't know exactly how big I want some things, and I'm not going to sit and worry about it. So I'm just going to work off the spool. So I'm going to make my coil, and I'm going to make it, let's trim on the end here. I'm going to make it as long as I want. And you could make this in any particular gauge you want. So let me coil this without getting caught up. Okay, that's probably long enough. Now, if I were making this to go on a particular piece and I wanted them all the same, I would make sure that I use the same mandrel, same size, and that I count how many coils I made. So for instance, these two are made, these two are made the same. This one is smaller and fatter. So I don't think it's bad to join them in the same piece, but if you're worried about them, then go ahead and count. So now I've got this thing going on, and what I want to do is make my loop here. So I'm going to pull it over to the side, and I'm going to make a loop. And it's setting cattywampus over there at the side. So I'm going to move him back over in the center. And then I'm going to use my fingers, let's get him positioned, to bend this down. Now, you can do this and just bend it, and with 20 gauge, it's pretty good. Or if you, with these, I was playing more with, I wanted that sharp bend. So I used my chain nose pliers to get that sharp bend over there. This one is just rounded. So this one I'm doing with my hand is just round. So I'm going to come around and I'm going to make another loop. And position it where I want it.
You're off screen.
And then I'm going to come around here. Now I've got my piece made here. Oops, let's get that circle looking a little better. I may have to cut my wire because I don't know that I can work off with this spool. So I've got the piece, and now I'm just going to go around one more time to fill that in. And that's, if I want that look, that's good. If not, then I could have stopped where I was and just end it. So there's the barrel shape. Where are my cutters? Let's get rid of that. And then I've got another one there that I could go with. So does anybody want to make one of those, or do you want me to wait and see that you have it, or go to another piece? Okay, we'll go to another shape. This shape I really like. This one I've made a lot of, and this one is a little link. And then there's a variation of this that we can make. Let's show you the link, and then we'll show you the variation. So you're going to cut your end. I'm going to cut off a piece of wire here so that I can work a little easier. Okay. So again, you want to straighten out your wire. So use your tool, use your hand, whatever it takes to give you a straight edge, and trim the end so that you don't have a little pokey guy. And this one, this particular link, I've used over and over and over again in different gauges. Let's see if I can find it. This is a 20 gauge. This is 18 gauge. And it makes a really, I think, a really nice chain. And on the piece that we're working with, it's someplace. I used this for about 5 or 6 inches. Oh, there it is. In different configurations. So here it is here. And I'm thinking that was a 16 gauge. And then here it is in 18 gauge over here. So I've got different sizes, different lengths of them. And this one is kind of, I think, fun to make. So we're going to use either our round nose pliers or our bail making pliers. And on the 20 gauge, I like to use the smallest portion. I'm going to do 2 wraps minimum so that I have 2 coils. Now, if you like a little heavier base in there, so at mine, if we were together, you could take them and actually look at them. Some I've decided I want a thicker base, some thinner. On the here on the 18 gauge, it looks thicker than it does on the 20. So I've got my coils. I'm going to put it back in my pliers. I'm going to take this piece.
Belinda, could you move middle screen? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take my finger and kind of move that back, which gives it that little bend to it. And then I'm going to put it back in my pliers this way, which looks so counterintuitive because we've been working this way. I'm rotating it now so that the hole in the circle is horizontal instead of vertical. And I'm going to make sure I know where my wire is. I want this wire to bend over my circles. So if I go this way, the opposite way, my circles will be sticking out and it'll look kind of strange. So here it is. Here's my circles. here's my inside where I started the circle. He's up. I'm going to come around and make a loop. And now the trick on these is you can decide how big or how small you want that. If you want a nice long one, of course, you'd have made it a longer loop, and you'll cut this pretty long. If you want a tiny little look, then you'd cut it short. So I like where it's about the length of my circle. So I've made my piece. I'm going to trim it with the flat end so I don't have to worry about, and I'm going to trim it right at the end of my circle. And now I've got a piece. So let me stop here. Let you make one before we talk about how to assemble them. So I'm going to go ahead and make it and be quiet so that if you need to watch me again, but if you don't need to watch me, go ahead and make at least two so you'll know how to assemble them. Okay, I muted myself because of course I get junk calls whenever I'm on camera here. The first one, when I hooked it in there, that was the only one I'm going to hook before I link them. So I neglected to say that to you. So when I didn't hook it in yet. I just cut it. Never mind. Ignore me. Thought I jumped ahead and told you. So when you have a couple made, so are we at that stage? Can we go to the, how do we close it and link it?
Hey, Belinda, it's Diane. I'm still working on it. Did you say when you have it horizontally, are you pushing your wire up towards the starting end? Is the starting end towards you or is it away from you?
The starting end is going to be in the center of when you make this bend. So there's my starting end in there. I don't want to go this way. So let's see if I can point it out on a finished one. Here's where I started in here. And I want this encased. If I had bent this way, it would come out on the other side and be weird looking. So I want my circle inside this loop.
Okay, so you need to make the loop whichever way to get that encased. Yeah. Okay.
And I can't give you a in or out because I'm left-handed and I think that would screw up all of you guys mentally. So
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. When I say do it my way, I notice, oh, I'm kind of different than the rest of you sometimes. So when you have it together, take your end and take your chain nose pliers, and right at the very end of where you cut it, so it's right at the end of your circle, make a little bend. So I'm just gonna basically make a bend that's gonna fit in inside the circle. And there's the link. Now we're going to link a couple of these together. So the trick with these is, here was my side that I linked in and made the little bend. I want on every one of my links that to be on the bottom. So, or on the top, whichever way you work, but you want them all the same. So I don't want my bent link to be on the top on the next one because my chain won't hang correctly. So here it is. Here's where I made that little bend and stuck it inside the circle. So now I'm going to take my next link and I'm going to come in the same way. So I want it to set in the bottom. Let's see if I can get my fingers on here. I think I have to do it with my pliers to show you. I want it to set in the bottom, and let's go for it and show you what's going to happen if I'm not careful. Right now I'm putting it up and it's going to be on the top. And this is wrong. See, I've got my bent side down here where my thumb is on the bottom, and now it's on the top. I want them the same. So instead of coming in from the bottom, I'm going to come in from the top. On each one, I want it to be this way. So I'm really kind of probably emphasizing this for most of you, but I want to get it in there. Well, come on. I probably should have made these out of 16 gauge for you. So now here's the bottom. And now here, the open part is on the bottom. And I know I'm in good shape. And I do the same thing I just did on the first one. Make a little bitty bend and stick it in there. Now I made that little bend because I want it to be, I don't want it to be huge because I want it to just go inside the circle, but I don't want it sticking out the other side and giving me a little rough edge. So there's two. I take the next one and I do the same thing. Depending on how close. Oh, this one I did close one up for you because this one is closed. So let me open it back up and see if I can slide it in there. So I want that to get in my piece. I want it to be on the bottom. And you just keep going until you get as many, many links as you need or want. And that's kind of I think that's an interesting chain. And the thinner you go, I just recently got a shipment from Rio where I ended up getting 21 gauge wire. And I bought that thinking, let's try that for this particular project, because I think it would give me this 20 gauge is light and makes a delicate chain. But I think 21 might be even nicer for a delicate look. So how are you doing on that one? Anybody have questions? Give me some indication when you're ready to go to the next link. You all look so deep in thought. Okay, so let's talk about another link. So we're going to go to a sort of a universal start on these. So let me get rid of this. This particular link here is going to be made or started the same way that this link is done. And that particular link, excuse me, is also made at the base the same way that this link is made. And on this one, my chain on this, I was trying to see if I could find the size. I varied, so I put some bigger circles and some littler circles, but they're all going to be started in essence the same way. So, excuse me, what we're going to do is take our wire, and again, we can work off the spool or we can cut a piece if we don't mind wasting it. And I'm going to cut a piece because I don't want to have to fight with it. And the first thing I'm going to do is decide how long I want the shank part, this part, to be. So, or this part. So if I want on these, I just used, so that I was consistent, I used my flat nose pliers, I think, on those. And maybe I use this. I use this at the base. And I'm going to give myself about a good ½ inch, because remember, to make a loop, I need a ½ inch. And I'm going to either start from one end or the other. And the easy end is to make your loop first. And so that means I'm going to make my loop and then do my base. So I'm going to take my bail making pliers or my or my round nose pliers, and I'm going to make the loop. So I'm just going to make the P loop the way I normally do. I'm going to come in and break the neck, and that's going to be my open end. Then I'm going to decide how long. So on this one, I did 2 different sizes. And how long do I want the shank? So I'm going to, just for convenience sake, use my tool to tell me how long I want it. So right here, I'm just going to make a 90-degree bend. So this part now is the shank part of my loop, or my component. Here I made similar, but I made it longer. So ignore, I went the opposite way. So but ignore that, that's a longer loop. So now I'm going to have to make the other side. So I'm going to again put in my bail making pliers. I'm going to use a smaller loop. I'm going to make a round, just like we're going to do a rosary wrap. I can keep this in 2 different planes. So here it is flat, and then here it's bent if I want that, or I can take my pliers and bend this so that they're both on the same plane, and it doesn't matter. It's just going to give me a different look. And then I'm just going to hold this again so that I have my death grip on this. So it, excuse me, keeps the circle. And I'm just going to go around. Now, if I were working off my spool, I don't know how much I'll have to go around here on this one. I might have cut a big enough piece to do it the messy way. I want those to stay pretty much together. But if I'm making this messy loop, it doesn't matter. If I were not making the messy loop and I wanted to make this, I'd come in and tighten all of these up. But I'm going to make the messy loop. So when I get to the end, I'm just going to flip it over and just go back over and just keep manipulating it so that I'm getting this bulky look around my shank. And I'm going in a couple of different times in different directions. And I'm just going to use up the rest of the wire that I had here. And you do that, excuse me, until you like the look. So if you like it really thick, keep going. If you liked it the first time around, stop. So I've got quite a bit here. Get to your end of your wire, trim it off, pinch it down. And there's my little messy piece. So now when I hook it together, I have one end that's open. I open it like a jump ring. Oops, I can get to the side that's open. Helps if you go to the right side. Open it like a jump ring, slip it in wherever I want it, close it back up like a jump ring. And there's my 2 loops. So this one, I just stopped with the one wrap around. This one, I continued to make the messy wrap.
Linda,
Mm-hmm.
could you go back to where you made that 90-degree bend? I kind of lost track of what to do after that.
Yeah, let me grab
You make the P loop first, and then you make the 90-degree bend.
Yeah, so that it comes down. So let me make another one for you to show you. So I'm going to make my open end, and you could go the other way, but this is the easy way. So make your open circle, your P loop, and then break the neck so that it's setting in the lollipop form. Decide how long you want your base to be. See if I can, and then make your 90-degree bend. And then let's close up my P loop so that it's going to be closed. And then make a rosary wrap. And that's all this part is. Oops.
I was gonna say, you're not on screen.
Yeah. And then make a rosary wrap. So make your loop here and just rosary wrap it. And the nice thing about still having it on my spool is I can make that rosary wrap as big or as small as I want. So I'm making my loop, other end of the loop. There's mine. Hold that so I keep the circle and just go around and around and around. Now, if I decided I like this look, I would every so often stop wrapping, get my tool in there and close up those wraps so that if I wasn't real neat when I was putting them on there, they line up together. If I can move them. If I'm making the messy wrap, the underneath part doesn't matter. I'm just going to go back again until I get it kind of a fat little barrel. Is the way I describe it. And I think he makes an interesting link. I don't know that I'd want my whole necklace to be made out of these, but that's just me. I know a lot of you like more free form than I do. So and what I particularly like about both of these loops is I have one end that's open. The next few we're going to make, you can end up with them all closed. And then if you forget to link them together, you're in deep trouble. So this is basically the same way. This particular link is just an elongated, it's got the same components, but it's got a bead in the middle, and it's just an elongated rosary wrap on both sides. And that's a nice link. Where is that one showing up on this? Oh, on this particular necklace, I made the fat little guy long. So I made the same way, made this guy, made him longer. So I wanted that long look, and he's about almost was 1.25 inches on the wrap, an inch wrapped, and then about 1.25 inches. Then instead of coming back multiple times, so I wrapped it just like this, but instead of coming back multiple times like I did over here to make the fat little barrel, I just went one more time back around. So it just gave it a little different texture on there, which this is kind of a nice look if you don't get those all nice and neat. So here's my fat little barrel guys on this one. And then I sort of carried the same theme through, but longer. And came up with a different look. On this one, I also hammered. So I took this to my jeweler's block and I hammered the ends to get a sort of a more rustic look. And here's my end that opens here. You can actually see where he opens and get him in there. So I didn't hammer the little guys, the little fat guys. I just hammered the longer ones. And that one I've got on each side, I've got 2 of the longer ones. And that gives you length without making a lot of different lengths. So, excuse me, questions on these? Okay. Is this, by the way, while you're making one, is this helpful to be showing you how to do some of these different ones? Is this Okay. I don't want to be
Definitely.
wasting your time. Okay.
I think a lot of times we've learned how to make them, but we forget about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. And like, why don't I ever use that? Well, it's because nobody reminds us about them.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do another one. Now, this other one, there's like 2 or 3 variations on this one also, and yet it sort of spins off of what we just did. So we're going to end up making, I'll show you the big one and then some little ones. This particular link here. And there he is big, and here he is. Whoops, that's a variation of it. I know I have, here's big ones. Oh, this is, yeah, there he is. I did on this particular necklace, I did big ones and little ones in between. So got one caught up in here. So I've got a big one on each side and a little one. So what we're going to do on this one to make the little one, and I actually did measure this out because I had aspirations of making a whole PowerPoint. This is just about 2 inches piece that I'm going to use. And I'm going to decide what size I want him. And I did sort of the second from the smallest on this. And I'm just going to bend it in the middle. So I'm going to eyeball it and just make a bend so that I end up with something that looks like this. And I want that circle to actually look like a circle. So I have this shape going on. Excuse me. And now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers so that I can get in there. And I'm going to straighten these up. Now the trick is, and this takes just a little bit of work to get these legs parallel. So you want them to be running next to each other, but not on top of each other. So each time I have to sort of adjust these. So I just stick my chain nose pliers in there where the wires cross. And I'm going to start with one, doesn't matter which one, and go straight up. So I want that 90-degree bend. Now I want to make another 90-degree bend with the other one, but I want it to be really close, or as close as I can get it to the other one. So I'm going to, I flipped my piece over, stick my chain nose pliers in here and get that nice 90-degree bend. And these are going to end up looking like cotter pins. So now here you want to work with these, and I obviously didn't get these the same length, but you want to get them straightened out and get your circle in there, that neck a little better, and get them sort of the same. Now, depending on what look you want, so you can either keep these nice and parallel and straight, or you can keep them open a little bit. So on mine, let's find one here. Here's one where I tried to keep them parallel. And then the bigger ones, I got more of an open look. But when you got it to this stage, make sure your legs are the same length. So I'm just going to trim those. And then you're just going to make P-loops at the end. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers or my bail making pliers. Again, you probably, if this is going on the same necklace, you want to make it consistent. So use the same size if you're using your round nose pliers. And just make your P-loops. And sometimes I find like I did it and I didn't point out that I did it, but I sort of splayed this out a little bit so that I could get in there and make that P-loop, and then I'll push them back together. And mine are probably a little long for that size. So now I've made my 2 P-loops, and now I'm just gonna straighten these up so that they go together. I want them the same size. And then I will just take them and open these like we did, and to make the jump rings, and they just slide onto the guy next to him. So here, I just opened him up. Here's the big one. Slid onto this, added another one over here, and just keep
Off
going.
camera.
Off camera. You can go back in here if you like the look with a little bit of a bend up in here and adjust them. And you can take them to your bench block and hammer them if you want a little texture on them or like the flat look. But these I have probably, well, I've got a whole combination, but I set while I'm watching TV and just make these and then set and make the links. Another variation of this, which is a pretty cool look, is, excuse me, you're going to make it almost the same way, but you're going to put a little curve in there, a little bend. So here's one that I have made. And here's another variation. So let me do the other variation for you. So this one, we're going to do it exactly the same way, but we're going to go around twice around our mandrel. So I'm going to take a piece, and I measured these. So let me show you what size I used on this one. So I started out with a piece of 20 gauge that's on this one. I think it's 2.5. It's, yeah, a little more than 2.5, just a hair bigger. And I'm going to, excuse me, go around whatever size mandrel I used twice. So on this one, I used, again, my second biggest. So I'm going to put it, eyeball it sort of in the center, and I'm just going to go around. And this time I'm actually straightening them out so that the ends are the same. So there's my shape. I went around twice, and then I would just continue to make it the same way we made the other one. So I made, excuse me, I took these pliers and just made a little bend in them on each side. You want that bend to be approximately the same, and then just go ahead and make your P-loops. So there's my finished loop. And I kind of like that look. It's just a smidge different, as is this. So this one, what I did is I didn't go around twice. I went, let's do a big one so you can see what I'm doing. I went around, well, I can start this one without guessing. I can decide how long I want the leg, and I can make that 90-degree bend. So if I want my leg that big, I'd make my 90-degree bend. I'm going to make know that this wire is too thin for this big, but I think it's easier for you to see it. I'm going to go around. So I've got my lollipop. instead of cutting this off when I made my P loop or making a rosary wrap, now I'm going to take whatever size I want that inner circle to be. So I'm just grabbing my round nose pliers because I want a smaller circle than I can get on my bail maker. I'm going to put it right there at the base of the lollipop. I'm going to come around and make a circle. I have to take my pliers out so I can get to the other side. I finished off the circle. I'm just going to post that down so it sits in there. And then I'm going to make another 90-degree bend, and I can't get my flat nose pliers in there. So I'm going to stick my round nose pliers right there and make that bend.
Off
And
screen. Thank you.
so now I have in large piece what's going on here. And then I go ahead and just finish it the same way I did these. Or do I have one that's finished? I think I have. No, I have a bunch of them. But these are just the double circle. This you could make. This is double circle. This, I guess you could do a double circle. Oh, here's a finished one. You could do a double circle, or you can just do this little circle inside. And I just think it's a different look, you know, it gives you a little variety. So then as you were hooking it together, you would just, you got your circle, your P loops that you made, just hook them inside and you get a chain that looks like that. So I'll give you a minute to make whichever one you're interested in, see if you have questions. And I'll try to decide what next one we need to do or can look at.
Belinda, this is Claudia Kay.
Yeah.
I had to locate it, so it took me a moment. But one of the very first projects we did was using one of those links, and we made a bracelet. And I can't remember what the link is called, but every time I wear this, everybody asks me if this is a Tiffany bracelet.
Oh,
Oh,
well, there's the links I remember doing
I got it.
in bracelet form.
Claudia, let's
let me-
spotlight.
yeah.
I'm going to spotlight Claudia right now.
Yeah, I was reaching
Yeah.
over to get her. So
Oh, you got it? Okay.
is that your,
And this is just artistic wire. So it is coated, but it did not turn. This is not sterling silver or the good para wire or anything, but this is a beautiful bracelet on. And
Yeah.
it's just that link that you just showed us. You can see back in the day, my links weren't that round or uniform.
but you know what, it's kind of organic. It doesn't have to be, none of these, you know, because what I like about these is there's enough fluidness in them that you're not being judged that they're perfect.
Yes, and when I wear it, nobody can see that the links are not quite right. But I think we spend a lot of time in the classroom, trying to get those links all together. But, I love that bracelet even today.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's see, somebody else had one. They
Well, I was
wanted,
gonna say, I put stones in mine, but I like yours so much better without any stones in it. So,
oh yeah, that's,
yeah, I think I showed it. I finished it up last week, I think. But I like it without the stones better.
well, it just has a different look, you know.
You
I'm not-
actually see the bracelet, not the
There's
stones.
a difference, but yeah, the simplicity, I can see why they would say Tiffany, Claudia. It has that just simple elegance to it.
And they're to me, you know, you could just buy a chain and hang for a bracelet or your necklace. But to me, you've done such a beautiful piece of work. Why do that? Why not put it on something, that is more of a piece of art? So for instance, this one, I think didn't we do these in class, the shells? So it's just a simple shell wrapped, and I could put it on a chain. But I think it just bumps it up a notch when you add a few different links to it. And again, like Carol did, she added beads. You could add tiny little beads in here. You could add different links in here. And I just think it gives it a different look. So,
I would like to someday do those shells again. Mine never got done. Partially because I don't know, I got hung up in bits and pieces here and there, but I think I have enough time doing this under my belt now that maybe it'd be possible to do those again.
to do like the wrapping,
Yeah.
yeah. And what I liked about the shell is the nail polish on it. I mean, to me, it's just a shell, but when you put the nail polish on it, it bumps it up a notch or two.
Well, I like all the scroll work, but to get to that, you have to do all of the wrap work, and that's where it all fell apart.
I think you could do that now, and like you said earlier, or somebody said earlier, it just takes practice, it's not rocket science, but
Well, some days it's not.
okay. So do we need any of these repeated so far, or any other looks that you want to do? So we've done what, about 6 or 7? I think, as I'm pulling out mine from the project that we originally started with, I have, if somebody could figure out a way to keep from getting these things tangled up, it'd be worth $1 million. So this was my original that started this. So what I have on this one, just to sort of pull it apart for you, is I started out with just some rosary wrap seed beads over here. So I put 3 seed beads on one, and it's just a simple rosary wrap, nothing exciting at all. But I used the same seed bead that I used in my pendant. And then I joined all of these with jump rings. And the reason I use jump rings, you don't have to use jump rings. You could hook them all together, but the jump rings gives it more movement. So if you're looking for more of a stable piece without a lot of movement, then just link them together, as I've done here on these links. But if you want more movement, then your jump rings work. Here I did the rosary wrap, but I made a combination of the rosary wrap and the messy wrap. So when I got to the end, I went back and wrapped the wire in a 28 gauge around and went through the beads. Oops, get back over there. So you get a little different look. And here I went back just the plain. So I have a plain, and in between I have a messy. And then here was almost the first wraps we did. And I did those all the way to the end. This is the part that goes around my neck. So I didn't feel like I needed to put anything real fancy back there behind me. On the other side, I started out with these just so I wasn't doing, I know, Pat likes symmetry, but I was looking for a little different look here. So I started out with those then I did a herringbone wrap crystal. Whoops. And I did 3 of those. Remember, everything you do, you should do in odd numbers. And then I ended up, again, because that's the part that goes behind my neck, doing some of those easy little loops. And it makes a nice necklace. It hangs well, it works well, and it gets a lot of compliments. The hook I made, I think I showed you this last week. I just did a variation of the spiral in the center, but I did a small circle. And then down here made, instead of tightening up that circle, that spiral, made it a little longer so I could stick a jump ring in there, came around and made my almost P loop, put a little end.
Right. Thank you.
Let me. And then I use that just to hook into a jump ring on the other side. And this, you could use any kind of an hook at the end. I just did that because I wanted to come back design wise and repeat what I did in the pendant.
Belinda, did you patina that?
You know what? I did not. This is from taking it to Bali and wearing it in the humidity. And I'm toying with, do I need to clean it up? You know, because it is patinaed looking. And I don't know whether I like that better than the shiny part, but it is natural patina on there. And it happened in Bali, and same with this piece. This was a shiny piece that I took with me on the cruise. And it happened like in it the first day we were there. So all the humidity and it is sort of a natural patina, but to me, I'm so used to the shiny look that it almost looks dirty, you know? So I'm toying, do I put that in vinegar and salt and clean it up or leave it the way it is? What do you guys think? I like it like
I
that.
like the way it is. That's
like
why
the
I was
patina.
asking, because mine's shiny and I'm not,
Yeah.
but I
I'm
figured
liking
it'll
that.
probably naturally patina out over time.
Yeah, well, that's all of mine do. So if I'm not really good about putting them all in little bags and storing them away. So they'll sit on my dresser, and we get it, you know, I'm close enough to the beach here that we get enough humidity in the air that I think that's what does it. But this, I was truly amazed because it literally was, I made the pieces brand new, took them with me to wear, because I always like, before I have you guys make them, I want to wear them a while to see if they hang right, if they're going to fall apart. And the first day, and they were in a bag, and it just, the humidity was so much that, and I pulled them out and went, wow, it almost looks dirty, you know? So I guess I have to get used to the look.
Hey, Belinda, it's Diane. Could you show us how to do the herringbone wrapped crystal again?
Sure. Yeah, let me grab a crystal. So I'm going to cut off my sample. Okay. I'll get a bigger one if I can find it in my mess here, so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to make a rosary wrap on each end. You could choose to make a P loop if you wanted, but you know me, I like to have the stability of the rosary wrap. So I'm going to make my rosary wrap. You're off camera. And now this herringbone, you could do it a couple of ways. So if you wanted to make this wrap all the way up, then make this tail longer. But I'm going to show you a little different way than I think we did it. So I made my wrap a couple of times. You're off camera. I'm just cutting my tail off. All right. So now let's go down here. Okay. So, excuse me, depending on how much I want to show the base, I could either wrap it right now and then make the herringbone, or I could leave a little exposed wire there. And I'm just going to give myself a little space. So I'm going to eyeball it. Just, we'll see how this turns out. And make my wrap on the other side. Which one did I use? Okay, so now I could do a couple of things here. I could stop with this gauge wire and put on another gauge. So if I wanted thicker or thinner, I could make the change now. I'm going to tighten these up from this angle. They're a little further apart than I'd like them. Or I can continue and use this as the herringbone. So let's try that. I'm going to continue to make this about to the middle of where I want my bead to set. So I want to leave about the same size over here as over here for the herringbone. And I'm going to cut off my wire here so I'm not fighting the spool. And I'll probably be wasting, excuse me, some because I don't know how this is going to work. So I'm on the top of my base wire. I'm going to come around the bead and under the base wire. So I'm on the top, I went around and under. I'm going to go around and come down the other side. So I went around the base, come down. I'm coming under here and I'm going to go over here. So whichever happens on one side, it's the reverse on the other side. Now, I've never made this with 20 gauge in the herringbone because I'm experimenting and it's pretty stiff. It'll have a different look to my original. Where are those originals that I pulled out? So I shifted over to here. You can see this is 18 gauge and this is probably 24 gauge. But you can see, oops, get it on camera, Belinda. So if you wanted that thinner look, you would shift out to a thinner wire. But here you can see it. So I'm on top. I'm going to come around all the way around and come down the other side. And depending on how futzy you are, you can line these up. And probably with a thicker gauge, I would work to line them up so that this wire that I'm putting around now is setting pretty close to the previous wire, not on top of it, where with my thinner, I'll pull that back over in a minute. I actually have them overlapping, but here they're lining up a little more parallel. Here, They're not as parallel. But because they're thinner, you can put more links around. So I'm on the top, gonna go all the way around. Come over. Do the same thing. I'm on the top, go all the way around, come over. And the key is, now I cut my wire off so I could show you guys, and it's going to work, but you want to get your wraps down to wherever you left off on the other end. So if I had stopped here, this would be messy down here. Because I have enough wire, it fits right in there. And I think I would stop right there. And then do any kind of a tidying up you need. So I do have enough. I could go around the other side, I guess, one more time. And there's my herringbone with the 20 gauge wire, which isn't as bad as I thought it might be. But it's definitely, excuse me, a different look than this with the finer gauge. So it's truly up to you. The other thing, you can do this with any shape bead that's in here. You can use a pearl. These are round, so to speak. This is elongated. And what I found is they're the same bead that I used here, that the elongated was a little easier to get this oval look than the round. And that's the back.
Could you build something like that into a cage?
Yeah, why not?
Well, because I was thinking because of the different lengths of the wire, it might, I don't know how it would be.
Try it. You never know until you know.
True.
So I mean, a lot of these I've learned over the years. Some I've just said, let's see, let's try it, so it, I've got a whole box of mistakes. That it's like, oh, well, that was a good thought, but it didn't pan out. Excuse me. I'm working on, in fact, I came up with, the problem with doing these in my chair while I'm watching TV with my husband is you don't do it the right way. So I'm working on thinking about a bracelet that's got the triangular pieces. And the problem I had with the 3 I made is no 2 of them are exactly the same size. I think these are closer. And for the bracelet, I want them to be closer. And then it dawned on me, all I have to do is draw a base triangle, and that shows me where to bend my wires. But I was trying to do it free-handed, and they're just slightly off.
I did a bracelet once and those became the charms in between
Yeah.
the dangly beads.
That
and
would
it
be
came out
fun.
Really nice.
Yeah. I thought this, we've done a lot of circles and we've done a lot of other things. I thought, oh, this would be kind of fun to do, but you got to do it the right way or it's going to look like trash. So
Someplace I saw one that was done with squares, but it
Yeah.
was messy wrap squares.
Messy is good.
Messy wrap. So they did a square and went back over the same square like 2 or 3 times and then got to the middle of one of the sides and then ended it by wrapping it there. And they called them messy
Messy
half
wraps.
squares. And it was really interesting. Somewheres I drew a picture of it and tried one once, but never theirs looked much better, and I never made a brace. Maybe if I'd got enough of them to put on a bracelet, you wouldn't notice my mistakes.
Well, and that's, I think that we're our own worst critics. So we think, oh, everybody's going to see it. And they don't, they look at the overall piece and say, oh, that's beautiful. But we see where the bend isn't right and where we're a quarter of an inch off, and where the coils don't stack up next to each other the way we want them, and the whole bit is, but
Well, that's why my son said, for somebody who had S.I. Hayakawa as an instructor, why I never learned the game of semantics. It's beyond me. It's freeform. It's artisan.
yeah. Well, that's the trick, isn't it? It's just,
Yeah, it's the approach. What is it? P.T. Barnum? You can fool some of the people some of the time, and all of the people all of the time.
What I haven't learned how to do is say, this was a design element. Instead, I say, oh, I made this mistake here. Where people who go, oh, this is a design element. You go, yeah, it's lovely.
I see your point, but that's not where I was coming from. I got that one down. Courtesy of art classes and teachers who didn't particularly like my work.
I'm pretty good about pointing out my own mistakes to people. So, but I never set myself up to be perfect. So
I am what you get, so like it or leave it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, there are many days I think, I'm teaching jewelry. Come on. It's the blind leading the blind.
Well, when I used to teach art, one of the kids said, you never teach us portraiture or anything. I said, no, that's true. It's not my best subject. And they said, you always do abstract. And I go, absolutely. You cannot be wrong if you're doing abstract. And he made some snide comment. And I said, well, let's see. The last Picasso went for about $3 million. So do you want to discuss this much further?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? It's my ignorance speaking. I look at some of that of Picasso's and I think, I could do that, and I never think I'm artistic. So I haven't developed appreciation. I haven't developed an appreciation for it, I guess.
Well, this all depends on you. Like you say, I look at it and go, I can teach that in class. And I did. And yes, I could teach portraiture, but that was not my best field.
Yeah.
Then my son got to Cal State Long Beach in the art department, and they were heavily into surrealism. And I said, quit. I walked out. So you're not going to get any condemnation from me. If it's not your thing, then why pursue it and be unhappy?
We have a family joke. My younger son, probably when he was in first grade, made this ceramic thing, and gave it to me for Christmas. And when I opened it, I made comment about it was a bear or something, and I was quickly corrected that it was not. So I'm even pausing now. I can't remember what it's supposed to be, but it was pretty abstract.
Well, I have one like that, and somebody said, what is it? And I loved, out of clear blue, I go, primitive man sitting on a rock. Dispute that description. I have no clue, by the way, what it was when I built it, and I still to this day don't know, but my answer is still, it's primitive man sitting on a rock. So I know where your bear came from.
Well, and after I said it and was corrected, I thought, well, that wasn't very good mothering. I should have said, tell me about it.
Yeah, but we never thought of those things at the time.
It still looks like a bear to me, and I still have it.
And that's why we're all entitled to interpret art the way we want to interpret it.
I guess,
So,
but I've never lived that down in the family.
well, they still remind me about primitive man on the rock. And when I took ceramics again when I retired, I built a second one just to go with it. Now you got bookends. I'll fix you guys.
I'll show you, yeah.
Yeah, now there's two of them lurking in the cabinet. Okay. I'm just start massive building. I don't have the kiddo today, so I can do anything I want today.
Oh, so do
I
you
was
have big,
thinking facial. No, I can't do that until my face clears up from the cancer treatments. So I'm going massage. I go, nah, it's too cold. Mani-pedi is on my list.
there you go.
And I already did all the kiln washing and straightening, so I can put a load in today.
Good for you.
But, and I just looked at my desk here and I'm going, I have notes on all the way across my calendar pad and on 3 pieces of paper. Maybe I need to sit here and transfer notes into a notebook. I've got measurements and designs that you drew and
Yeah.
and you know what? I think you're the first person who ever said after we cut the jump rings to file them, that
Oh,
might
really?
correct a lot of my problems.
It does make a big difference. Yeah.
I mean, I finally figured out the closing part a couple of years ago and I finally heard a click and I knew what they were talking about. But that's why I asked about could we get cutters that cut
Yeah,
straight?
I'm gonna have to look and see if we can get some that are thinner, because Mona had us buy these, way back when I started like 20 years ago. And I don't know, I'm not happy with them, but
Maybe these are mine. Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe I do have a pair, but again, it's like you, don't use them. There's gotta be.
Belinda,
Mhm.
what I like the double flush cutters for is cutting wire off the spool. Then
Yeah.
I always have a beginning flush cut.
Oh, that makes sense.
It does,
You,
yeah.
Pat,
Oh.
do you have a brand? Let's see, Pat, do you have a brand that you think works better?
No, I just ordered them online for my, I just put my tools away. Hang on, I'll be back.
The one I do have a long pointy one. I just found it in the bottom of my thing.
Let me
And it
highlight it.
says X
Oh, excellent, yeah.
XURON, I think it is.
That's the manufacturers of the one I have. Let's see your pointy one.
Now, let's see. This working off of computer and a full-size
those-
monitor is.
Those are double flush?
Yeah, I just cut a piece with it. So there's a number on here. If that helps anything. 9180.
9180, okay,
And it does say US, so
good. Well, I'll have to
yeah, I
look,
didn't even know I had any.
because I have not, these are the same manufacturer, but they're,
Yeah, both sides are well, I can figure out why I didn't know, because I always keep my cutters, covered.
excuse me. No. Lord only knows where all my cutters are. I keep opening files and finding boxes where I
Well,
didn't put them away
I-
correctly.
I swear I've spent 2 weeks straightening up the office and the feeding supplies and everything. And every time I open a box to get something out, the next thing I know, I'm cleaning all over again. It's like, why did I file it here? It should have been over there. Oh God, what was the other question I was gonna ask? Something about,
Yeah.
oh, does anybody, a decent pair of scissors for cutting beading line? I know they go through it, it eats up your scissors very, very quickly, but is there something
I
that,
like these.
let's see.
Let me get you back over there. I'll remove this spotlight. Okay.
As they get off my sore face.
Oh, the Japanese.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I know where to get those.
Yeah, I like these. They cut real nice.
How long do they last? A month or two?
Oh, no, I've had them longer than that.
Okay, because it seems like everything I've had, I go through very quickly, which is why I was talking the other day about, has anybody tried to get any of this stuff sharpened? And I don't think my stuff is the quality that would do it any good. So thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
so-
somebody just published an article on how to melt your your copper wire. And if you do it under low temperatures. So if we do wire, or the what do you call it? Like you were talking about last time, the soldering and
the
stuff.
soldering, yeah.
There's a way to do it with just a soldering iron and use the scrap wire for soldering purposes on other.
Other things. Oh,
So I was thinking about cutting up a couple of soda cans and seeing if I could practice on that.
good. So the next project, so we're off next week, and then we're going to come back and we're going to be doing let me go over to back over to that camera. We're going to be doing this beaded bracelet.
Yes,
So-
I'm looking forward to that one.
Does anybody have questions about the supplies they need or what we're doing? Oops, get it on camera, Linda. Remember, you don't have to have these tubes. I had them, I used them. If you have them, good. If not, somebody suggested, how about just making a coil? And that works. You don't have to use the suede. You could use leather. You could actually bead something if you wanted.
A
So
chaos coil in there would be pretty.
it would be. You could also do a woven one if you wanted. So just do, figure 8 on 3 wires. And I mean, there are all kinds of options. So like I said, I used the Daiso suede because I had it. And we can make do with whatever you have. This you should be able to finish in class. This is an easy project. Excuse me, boy. So did we get our necklace done? We get all the links done?
No, but I got tons of notes and pictures.
Good. I don't think we've done a class in a long time where it was just techniques like that, just different things. We've
That's why I
usually
said
done projects.
we've seen it done, or we maybe used it once and we've never revisited it, and revisiting is a good thing.
Well, and I have to remind myself of that because as I'm going through selecting projects for us to work on, I keep thinking, oh, I think we did that already. And I don't want to bore you guys ever with the project. So I just like to make the new people complain that it's too hard a project.
Linda,
Mhm.
that when you were showing all the links and you showed that necklace that you had worn when you went overseas,
Mhm.
there was what looked like a pendant that had a green bead, large bead, and then I think two smaller ones. And
Uh-huh.
that was a beautiful, that's a pendant.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a lovely project.
You like
Is
that?
it too complicated for us or
No.
no?
How about the
That's
rest of you?
gorgeous.
You want to do something like that? Whoops, get it in there.
Just an idea. I really loved
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Went, whoa, when you showed it.
Okay. That works for me because I've been futzing with what's one more project for next spring. That makes life pretty easy for me. So
Wow.
we'll.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Well, looking back through some old beading magazines somebody gave me from, I just looked at the date on it, 2015. Instead of the bead on it, they did and silver did a key,
Oh, yeah.
little seed beads. That was very interesting. And I looked at it and went, yeah, well, I'm not doing that one, but it's interesting. But yours I like better. I might attempt.
Yeah, this was really easy. This is just making the shape and sticking your bead in it and then just doing figure 8 between the two legs of the wire. So
Oh.
it's, and then making the, I don't know if you can see the back, but it's,
Oh, let me go look over here.
I just bent these
yeah.
so that it makes the legs, and then we just did the herringbone and stuck
Yeah, we get to practice our herringbone again.
to practice our herringbone again. So
I
yeah,
saw another one going through the magazine and I didn't find the directions on it. It was all figure 8s, and then they were put together with brass jump rings, but they had patinaed the figure 8s and they were all blue. How do you get a blue patina?
was it copper to start with?
I think it was.
So you can get a blue patina a couple ways. You can do it with flame by putting ammonia on it first and then flaming it, or you can put it, Miracle Grow makes a really nice kind of blue patina on
Yeah,
copper.
this was a really bright, pretty blue.
There's also blue patina paint that for copper.
Oh,
that,
okay.
you know, there's different colors. I don't have, they're somewhere right here, but you could buy all different kind of colors to paint on different patinas. Let's see.
Well, my one that I'm having, oh, you might know the
It's
answer.
the patina paints. I got several different colors, but you know, you could just buy these patina paints and they come in all different colors.
Is that
Yellows,
vintage?
greens, blues.
Is that vintage? Are they the label? Is that?
Let's see. Patina. Yes, vintage. Yes, yes.
I've
Yes,
only used their turquoise and I wasn't particularly thrilled. It was like too bright a turquoise. That
you know what I when I was teaching it, I would have them because the turquoise depending, like I like the muted, like to make it look like old versus bright. So I would patina it, and then I would, after I would paint it, and then after I'd paint it with this patina, I would liver or sulfur it to darken it up, so like made it look more older.
Oh, okay.
technique. Hey, I have an idea, Jeanette. I'm good about putting people on the spot. So you can say no. With next session, we're gonna have 2 times where we meet together. And the first time, the end of April, I thought we'd do the soldering piece because then we could share tools. But the last time in May, how about sample patinas? Because you've done a lot of that. Could you? I mean, I work with you and we can bring in the supplies, but I think, am I speaking out of turn for the rest of you? I think it would be fun to learn about the different patinas and
Yes.
and you don't have to answer right now because I don't want to put you on the spot, but think about it, Jeanette. And if you're interested, let's talk.
Okay. Okay.
Jeanette, while you're here, I can't get the kind of tandy black dye that we used to use because it's now considered carcinogenic and California won't let anybody send it in anymore. I know it's still available in Texas, but I've got nobody to drive it out here to me. So do you have a good black leather dye?
I use, are you talking about the liver of sulfur?
No,
Stuff?
I'm
Is that-
talking about dye
Leather.
for leather.
Dye
A leather
for
dye.
leather. We just, whenever we do leather, I can't think of the name of the company, but we just go to Tandy Leather. And then there's another company in Santa Fe Springs. Oh, they do dyes. I'd have to ask my husband. I can't think of it. I've never gone
Okay.
to the place. It's a factory there in Santa Fe Springs.
Okay.
And
Well, Tandy won't allow, California won't allow Tandy to ship the dyes into California anymore. They can be driven in, but they can't be shipped in. So,
and you can't order it from Tandy here in, what is it, Culver City or wherever Tandy's at?
oh, I didn't know we still had one in Culver City. Everyone I knew was closed.
I don't know. I haven't been there in a while because we would go to that one, and then there was one over there by the beach where I took leather classes. I can't think of the name. It's been
Okay.
so long.
Well, it gives me a place to start again because
Yeah, look at Tandy Leather, and I can't think of the company. There's a company in Santa Fe Springs that does leather dyes.
okay, well, at least I have a city to start looking for. Thank you.
Mhm.
So we're about at the end of the day. Anybody have questions or need examples or?
The classes in April and May, will they be at St. Isidore's?
What, Becky came on last time and she hasn't gotten back to me, so that where we kind of left it was once a month. So we'd have mostly Zoom, the last session of each month. So that would be April and May will be, excuse me, in person, either at the Jewish Community Center or St. Isidore.
Okay,
But
Jewish
not-
Community Center, I can get. to.
Excuse me.
Well, 'cause
Not,
nothing was, St. Isidore's listed the OLLI classes in their bulletin that were going to be there for next time, and we weren't listed, so.
Well, I kind of got, Pat, who does the scheduling, had sent me, she always sends me seems like way early for me, the description. And on that, it says the location and asks for my input. So I had put in there St. Isidore and sent it all back to her like within the hour that she'd sent it to me. But I got the sense that Becky, it was news to Becky. It hadn't been conveyed to her. And she said, oh, I didn't know you guys wanted to even be together or something like that. And then it was like, oh yeah, I had asked, but I somehow I don't think it got conveyed. So we did do a little discussion while she was on, and she said she'd look and see if she could get us on to one of those, but
Okay.
and for the most part, our dilemma was, I know some of you really want to be in person and some of you really want to stay on Zoom, and I'm selfish. I don't want to lose any of you. So we're trying to make everybody happy, which means we'll probably make nobody happy, but what can I tell you?
Always works that way.
Well, for me, the Zoom, I have a love-hate relationship because I really miss being able to sit down next to you and say, no, hold it this way or try it this way. And that I think is good teaching. What I will not miss if we get together is having all my stuff right here and having to lug it all around with me, that it's so nice here just to be able to grab something and show you, where if I've got to carry it all, it's like, oh, what a nightmare. So
Well, that and I always had the wrong stuff with me. And then I couldn't work because I didn't have the right stuff. I thought I did, but
well, and I seem to bring, when I'm teaching, the world, and that cart is so heavy to lift in and out of the car.
I know my new one always was take it out of the cart, put the cart in, and then put it all back in the cart.
So I kind of have, like I said, a love-hate relationship with the prospect. So, and somebody in their not right mind said, why don't you teach 2 classes, one in person and one on Zoom? It's like, because this becomes almost a part-time job for me anyhow. And I haven't been at my lace pillow since August. So I kind of like to do that.
Well, that's what I said.
Belinda,
Yes.
Belinda, I had a question. I know it's at the end, so maybe you can just describe how to do it. But when we're doing that, the necklace, the beaded necklace that we just have completed,
Yes.
I'm not quite there yet, and I didn't know how to transition from doing the twisted to doing that last little piece where it's non-twisted.
Without going down the 2 or up the 2 and up the 3, just go
Okay.
down 1 and up
And
1.
add 2 each time?
You're
but just go
going to
down
add 2,
1.
but just go down 1 and up 1,
Yeah. Oh.
or
Okay.
down 2 and up 2 if you need the stability. And the key is to just not change, not vary the number. So if you went down 3, you go up 3. If you went down 2, up 2,
Oh,
and that'll give you the straight. And
okay. And you don't use the beading cord to tie on to that metal piece that goes around for the
No.
end cap?
No.
You don't use that. You use something that you bend the wire and
We bend the
scoop
wire,
it
we
into it.
Yeah, we made a P loop and then slipped it down in the center and caught kept the P loop open a little bit so that it could
Okay.
catch some of the beading wire and hold it. But that's
Okay.
after you secure that fire line or wildfire really secure, because you don't want it to pull that and break that. So you
And
want
do you have to do any glue in there or?
you can. I did some with glue and then I did some without them, and I'm not sure it
Okay.
makes a huge difference. But if you think it's not going to hold well, put a little bit of the E6000 glue inside your cap as you slide it on
Okay.
the bead, so that it, I over worry, Miriam. I'm always afraid things are going to come apart. So I probably, in fact, I'm working on a beautiful piece for us for next session that we're going to do some beading. And I had to take a portion out, and I had backtracked so much. It took me longer to take out the part where I'd backtracked to get the thread secure than it did to make the whole darn thing. So it's like, oh, okay, this piece is never coming apart, ever.
I can
All right.
commiserate.
Okay, well, I'm needing to go to Hobby Lobby so I can get supplies to finish off a couple of things for next session. So if you don't have any other questions, we will say goodbye for 2 weeks and we will be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.